March 9th. And we're going to go right to roll call. So Deanne, if you'd like to call the roll.
Commissioner Hausberg.
Here.
Commissioner Hanna.
Here.
Commissioner Hoofnagel.
Here.
Commissioner McCall.
Here.
Mayor Kennedy.
Here. And at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Randy Moore, our city manager, for our swearing-in ceremony. If both of our commissioners would like to go down with Randy, we will have him swear you in.
I appreciate the de facto promotion, but I am just the city attorney.
What did I call you, city manager? Now, why'd you have to say something? Nobody even picked that up.
So we'll come down here and fight. We'll set up one at a time. Ladies first.
Okay.
And I'll be administering the oath of office pursuant to Article 2, Section 5B of the Florida Constitution.
Okay. Randy, can you hold on for a minute, please?
Yep. Oh, thank you. Would you please raise your right hand? Repeat after me. I, Denise Hausberg,
I, Denise Hausberg,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support, protect, and defend
that I will support, protect, and defend
the Constitution and government of the United States,
the Constitution and government of the United States,
of the state of Florida,
of the state of Florida,
and of the city of Indian Rocks Beach,
and of the city of Indian Rocks Beach,
that I am duly qualified to hold office
that I am duly qualified to hold office
under the Constitution of the state
under the Constitution of the state
and of the charter of the city,
and the charter of the city,
and that I will well and faithfully perform
that I will well and faithfully perform
the duties of city commissioner
the duties of city commissioner
of the city of Indian Rocks Beach, Florida,
of the city of Indian Rocks Beach, Florida,
on which I am now about to enter.
of which I am now about to enter.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations, Councilmember. If you could sign that. Sir, if you could raise your right hand. I, Philip J. Hanna,
I, Philip J. Hanna,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support, protect, and defend
that I will support, protect, and defend
the Constitution and government of the United States,
the Constitution and government of the United States,
of the state of Florida,
of the state of Florida,
and of the city of Indian Rocks Beach,
and of the city of Indian Rocks,
that I am duly qualified to hold office
duly qualified to hold office
under the Constitution of the state
under the Constitution of the state
and of the charter of the city,
and of the charter of the city,
and that I will well and faithfully perform
and I will well and perform
the duties of city commissioner
the duties of city commissioner
of the city of Indian Rocks Beach, Florida,
of the city of Indian Rocks Beach, Florida,
on which I am now about to enter.
of which I am now about to enter.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations, Commissioner.
With that, we have our newly commission seated, and we will close this meeting. We will come back again at 7 o'clock for our regular scheduled meeting. And if you're more than welcome to join us at 7 p.m. Do we have any refreshments?
Yes.
Okay. We have some refreshments if you'd like to stay and have some, okay? Thank you. Motion carries. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call this meeting to order. It is March 9th, 2021, a little bit after 7 p.m. As we call to order the meeting, I'd like for all of you to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, and then we do a 10 seconds of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And please remember Ann Moston, who is my mother, who passed away last Friday. Thank you. You may be seated. Deanne, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Hanna,
Here.
Commissioner Hoofnagel,
Here.
Commissioner Hausberg,
Here.
Commissioner McCall,
Here.
Mayor Kennedy.
Here. Thank you, Deanne. And with that, tonight, does the Pinellas County Sheriff, do you have a, would you like to come forward? And do you have a report?
I do, Mayor. Actually, I have two reports.
Okay. Just so all of you know that if you ever would like to speak to our sheriff, any of the deputies that are here, they always come 15 minutes before the meeting, if you would like to speak to them before the meeting. Thank you.
Good evening. At the last meeting, I did not have the monthly statistics for January, so I do have those tonight. And for what the statistics I will present now are for January. Under the UCR crimes, we had one sex offense. I can't really go into detail right now. However, because it was on a juvenile, but it was late reported, and it was reported to us by Hillsborough County, and detectives are following up on that right now. We had one assault, one burglary, and 3 petty thefts, and then a motor vehicle theft, which is still currently ongoing with that one. There were 7 total people arrested during the month of January, and there were 717 total events engaged by the deputies, and leading that for the month of January was traffic enforcement, specifically traffic stops. There were also 3 crashes during the month of January that were investigated, and there were a total of 217 citations and warnings issued. Now for the month of February. Under UCR crimes, we had 2 assaults, both domestic related. We had 1 residential burglary, which was late reported, that occurred during the course of months, and it was possibly contractor related. We had 4 thefts, and on the UCR crimes, you'll see that it shows 1 motor vehicle theft. However, that was related to the one in January. I don't know why it's showing up on February as well. There were also 7 people arrested during the month of February. 713 events during the month. This time leading it was the directed patrols, deputies out patrolling the neighborhoods, and then traffic enforcement as well. This month, or month of February, there were actually 10 crashes that were investigated this time, and leading was the intersection of Gulf Boulevard and 5th Avenue. And then there were 174 combination of citation and warnings issued for the month of February.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions at this time?
This is Ed.
Hi, Ed.
Hi, how are you? I just wanted to thank the sheriff. You guys had a pretty serious collision this week at 5th Avenue and Gulf Boulevard, and handled it very professionally. I know it was very difficult because the street was shut down for several hours, but I wanted to just relay our appreciation for the work that was done. Thank you.
Well, thank you. I'll pass that along. It was not my shift, but I'll pass it along.
Thank you. Anyone else who has a question or comment for the sheriff? Hearing none, thank you. We'll see you next month.
Thank you, Mayor.
And our Pinellas Suncoast Fire and Rescue, their report is on file if anyone would like to read it. And with that, we'll go to public comments. Each speaker has 3 minutes. Any member of the audience may come forward, give his or her name and address, and state any comment or concern that he or she may have regarding any matter over which the commission has control, excluding agenda items. All statements made to the commission shall be made to the city commission as a whole, not directed to any individual city commission member, and no personal or slanderous remarks shall be permitted. No speaker shall be interrupted, and no debate shall take place between the speaker and the city commission. And is there anyone at this time who'd like to come forward?
Hello, my name is Nancy Peterson, and we own a home on 20th Avenue. And I went down to get a parking pass, and much to my surprise, I wasn't eligible, despite the fact that the city ordinances state that if you go down with 2 or more of the following 4 items, that was what you needed. I had a car that was registered to that address. I had a utility bill, and most importantly, I had a tax bill for nearly $10,000. But despite that, I'm not allowed to have a parking pass. Now, someone could own an apartment building and have 4 units and live in one, and if they have year-round people living there, all of those people could get parking passes if they had a driver's license in Florida and they were living in that apartment year-round. But because we are part-time residents, we are being penalized. We are less hard on the infrastructure here. We don't make as much trash as the average person that lives here year-round. We're not as hard on the beach because we're not here year-round. But you're very happy to take full-time taxes from us. If we're not going to be treated as residents, then actually we pay more because we're not homesteading. It seems grossly unfair to me and very punitive. While we are here, I have volunteered at the food pantry, I volunteered at the thrift store, I've donated significant amounts of money to the food pantry and to the toy drive, and I've cleaned up on the beach. Heck, I even pull weeds in the islands where they're growing through the hedges, but I'm not a resident. And I can't get one lousy parking pass. I just find it unbelievable. I mean, I understand you guys have a difficult job, but I think this policy of if you don't have a driver's license that's in Indian Rocks, the reason we don't is because we both paid to get enhanced licenses 2 years ago, and we're not full-time yet. We're like most retirees, they don't just jump to Indian Rocks Beach. We're gradually increasing our time. We've owned property here since 2014. We started with a condo and then decided we wanted to spend more time here, so we bought a house. And we're gradually increasing that. We're here roughly 6 months of the year. And we may end up being permanent residents, but right now we're not, and I feel like we're being treated very badly by the committee. And I hope this is reconsidered. Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy. Thank you. Is anyone else who'd like to come up at this time? Please come forward.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is David Jennis. That's Jennis. And my wife and I, her name is Lori, we own a home at 429 12th Avenue, Indian Rocks. I've owned that property since 1997. And we also own the adjacent lot, which is a separate tax parcel, separate ID. We use it as part of our yard, so we don't build on it, but it is part of our yard. And it's a part of our home. And I'm here tonight, I must confess, I'm a lawyer, don't hold it against me, because I'm not here as a lawyer, I'm here as a homeowner, and I'm here as someone that believes I am a resident of Indian Rocks Beach. I've lived here, we've had our home for almost 25 years. We've used it exclusively as our home. I rented it early in career, we haven't rented it since 2000. I know my neighbors, they know me. We used to be called the Tampa people because we have a home in Tampa as well, which is part of the problem. But we know our neighbors, and you can ask Pat and Martine Marzulli, you can ask the Rifkins, you can ask Tom Schaefer, you can ask everyone that lives on our block. We believe we're part of this community, and we love this community. That's why we bought over here. But when my wife, and I'm an attorney, I reviewed the ordinance when it passed. I didn't have a problem with it, because gosh knows over the summer, when I would drive the car down to the beach with the kids and there'd be non-resident vehicles in the resident parking spaces, I myself got frustrated and irritated and said, why is this not being enforced? Because we've had our decals. We've had them for 10 years. Because every time it's up for renewal, we've come with our tax bill, because I've paid taxes on these property for 24 years, and I don't have the benefit of the homestead exemption as well, so I've paid my share of taxes. I think I'm a citizen. I think I'm a resident. And I'm a taxpayer in Indian Rocks Beach. And now I'm going to become a voter in Indian Rocks Beach because my vote's a little bit more diluted in Tampa. But my wife came up yesterday to the city office with our proof, our tax rolls, and all of our utility bills. And for the first time, she was told we couldn't have a permit. She was told we couldn't have a permit because we didn't have the homestead exemption. That's not what the ordinance said. And I came up and I talked to a very nice lady, the office administrator. She was wonderful and she was courteous. And I was asking her questions because I read the ordinance. And the ordinance does say 2 out of 4 proof of what you have to have. We had those. I was told that wasn't sufficient because a decision had been made that you had to have a driver's license or a vehicle registered. And I would just ask the commission, I had a wonderful conversation with the city attorney this morning, Mr. Mora, absolutely professional, absolutely helpful. I couldn't speak more of him. I told him I wasn't going to come here as a lawyer, but the ordinance says you can have 2 out of 4 and you shall be entitled. And I was told yesterday that that really wasn't the intent of the ordinance. That really wasn't the intent of the ordinance, and I wasn't a full-time resident. I've gone over my time. I apologize. I would ask this commission to consider if the application, what was just described, and my experience, my wife's experience yesterday, was proper implementation of the ordinance as it's written, or whether it may be something else. Maybe it might be appropriate. I'd also ask the commission to think if it was the intent to limit parking to whatever a full-time resident is that a proper classification? Is that a proper way to classify your residents, your taxpayers, and deny a privilege? Because parking is a privilege. It's not a right, it's a privilege. Can you deny a privilege to certain tax-paying residents for reasons that we have another address or our car is registered someplace else? Thank you for your time, and I apologize for going over.
Thank you, David. You know, we're all grown-ups here. We don't have to clap after everybody, okay? Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
My name is Myra Tritle. I live at 2504 Gulf Boulevard, number 503. I have an issue with this parking also, but I am a full-time resident. I have been a full-time resident for 21 years. I've worked very hard in Indian Rocks Beach. I love Indian Rocks Beach. I came from Tampa. I grew up here my whole life on vacations and moved here when I retired. Now you're taking away our parking, and that is not fair. I live in a condo that is 40 units. We have 1 parking space per unit. We have 9 guest spots for 40 different units to use. We have 2 beach accesses, 1 on each side of our building. From 11 to 6 in the morning, those spots are 90% vacant, except maybe on a holiday. When you have the 4th of July, Memorial Day, one of those, yes, they're full, but not normally.
Myra, what's the condo you live in?
Dolphin Reef,
Dolphin Reef.
yes. And this is another issue. You guys have just given a permit to somebody to build 32 townhomes across the street from us. When those townhomes were being reviewed, I looked at that, and they were going to have 2-car garage and 2 parking spaces on the driveway. There was about 4 spaces for each one of those units, which we said, great, no parking problem. I went over there today and looked at them. They're a tandem garage. If you don't know what a tandem garage is, 1 car parks in front of the other. And I don't think those people are going to be backing a car out every time the guy in front wants to get out. So they're going to be parking on the driveway, and it's only going to be a 1-car driveway. So they're going to be switching back and forth, and they're going to end up parking. But, you know, it's issue. You keep giving building permits, but then you don't want anybody to park. So you need to review that. And also, I don't understand this where we get a sticker, like this gentleman wants a sticker. What good is the sticker? Because now we can't park out there overnight in those spots. You can only park, we've got maybe 4 or 5 spots that say Indian Rocks Beach residents, but you can't use them but in the daytime. And if I have a visitor, my children coming, you can tell I'm getting older. I may need help in the future. And if my children have to come here at night, you guys are closed, they have nowhere to park. And it's been stated we can park on the east side of Gulf Boulevard. Well, you go down to the east side of Gulf Boulevard, 24th Avenue, 25th Avenue, First, I think it's First, and Bay, no parking signs on both sides of the street. So that's a 3-block radius one way and 2 blocks the other way. You cannot park because it says no parking. So where do we park on the east side of the street? And why would I have to drive to a neighbor who owns property like maybe one of these people and park in front of their front yard, even if it was available, when I've got spots right outside my door that are sitting there vacant that nobody's using? I mean, this is absurd. I just can't believe that you've done this.
Thank you,
And I
Myla.
appreciate you rescinding it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioners, for letting me speak again. Mark Bodine, Cameron Cove Resort, 2402 Gulf Boulevard. I was here at the last commission meeting speaking about the temporary parking permits that our residents were given in the past that hang from the rearview mirror, specifically to park on the beach access overnight. I want to thank Greg and I want to thank Diane, the past commission, for returning my emails and specifically talking to me in reference to this issue. That shows their professionalism in their business and with the city. Lauren, again, I want to recognize her for her pleasantry when I call in. We used to deal with her in the sanitation department, but now she's in the office and she's a great person to have there. My issue last time was the beach parking permits that hang from the rearview mirror that we can't get anymore. As I stated, Cameron Cove Resort is a timeshare resort. Our deeded owners are Saturday to Saturday, so I was requesting a 7-day permit. I don't have an issue if they have to pay for it, but I have an issue with City Hall not being open on the weekend for our residents to get the parking permit. Our business operates 24/7. We don't have the weekends off. We don't have the holidays off. Is there some way the commission could look at that over the internet, these people can purchase their permit, have it mailed to them maybe by the city or possibly emailed off the internet, and then they can put it on their vehicle when they're here at the resort? We're not asking for anything out of the unusual. They are deeded owners at Cameron Cove Resort, and we are just asking for some way to get these permits from the city. It would be extra revenue to the city. You're charging $5 per night on these things. And during the summer, as you know, the city of Indian Rocks Beach is just slammed with parking. Sunday morning when I came into the resort, it took me 30 minutes to get over the Bel Air Causeway. Everybody's coming to the resort, to the beach. When I come down West Bay Drive and I make a left, everybody's turning left to Indian Rocks Beach because they know the parking there is free during the day. So we're just asking, is there some way that our owners can get this permit without the City Hall being open on the weekends? And also in closing, I'd like to submit to the city the notice that I received recently. Temporary beach parking permits issued will allow parking from 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. on posted and paid permit basis only. We all make mistakes, and I believe this was supposed to be 11 p.m. to 6 a.m. And I would like to submit it to the city council and the attorney in reference to what I have received via the email from the city of Indian Rocks Beach. Again, thank you very much for your time. I see that there's a lot of people dealing with this issue. Possibly in the future, the city would reevaluate their parking and have the residents and the commission meet to maybe come to an agreement on what would be best for everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark.
Good evening. My name is Jim McCosker. I live at 2004B Beach Trail. And I'm speaking tonight on behalf of myself, my wife Evelyn, who's here, and our neighbors. And the first issue that we have is that neither we nor any of our neighbors have experienced problems with overnight parking on the avenues which are designated as beach accesses in our neighborhood. We've never had a problem. The rationale behind Ordinance 2020-8, as stated in the ordinance, quote, that it was to, quote, remedy the effects of unpermitted parking in its residential districts and unregulated congestion, end quote. If the problem arose from unpermitted parking, why was it not solved by ramping up enforcement of the existing regulations? The existing ordinance would work fine if you had the courage to enforce it. The Pinellas Sheriff's Department is fabulous. Let them take care of the problem. Don't create the morass that you create now for those of us that live there. That's our neighborhood. If there were problems in specific locations, a specific avenue or two, that's not been delineated because we've never seen it. We'd like to know exactly where this was an overwhelming problem. What avenue? The fact is that free and unregulated overnight parking is available on almost every public street on the east side of Gulf Boulevard. Now, previously, our only free overnight parking was on the extension of the avenues, which are designated beach access. They required a permit. That was all well and good and fair. The new ordinance removes all free overnight parking on every avenue west of Gulf Boulevard. Every one of the neighborhoods on Gulf Boulevard to the west side have no free parking. It was actually suggested to me by somebody in City Hall that I could go 3 blocks away and park on the other side of Gulf Boulevard. So, how can the city justify this? Removing free overnight parking just on the west side of Gulf. The second issue is kind of an absurdity, which the ordinance has brought about. And I will tell you the story of 2 friends who buy identical houses. One lives here full-time, gets Florida license plates, Florida registration, driver's license, drinks lots of orange juice. He gets a homestead exemption. His taxes are cut in half, and he gets the coveted IRB decal. His friend keeps working where they came from. He keeps his car registered there, his driver's license. He keeps drinking apple juice. He pays full taxes and denied the coveted parking decal. It's not right. We moved 23 years ago to a friendly, kind of funky little Indian Rocks beach. We've now been transported not to Brigadoon, but to Bel Air Rocks Beach. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you.
Pete Delina, 1201 Bay Palm Boulevard, Indian Rocks Beach. And I guess for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction because I kind of like what you guys did with the parking. I like that you've increased the penalties for those people that can't follow the directions as they're stated. And I like that you've minimized the number of permits that are given out based on your residency. It even says resident on the parking permit. So to me, that's exactly what it is. Once again, I'm in favor of the process that you've taken. And one discussion that we had here, you had explained that at some point you would revisit the parking issue and maybe escalate some of the actions that you've taken. And I think that that's a good idea. I'm hoping that you would do that, especially looking at certain streets, like the street that I live on is 12th, and sometimes the school bus can't even get down because there's so many cars that are parked on both sides of the street. So again, I appreciate the positive action that you've taken, and I hope it continues in the same progression. Thanks.
Sir, could you restate your name? I couldn't hear you.
Pete Delaney.
Thank you.
Delaney.
Dalina.
My name is Carol McLaughlin, 115 21st Avenue, and I am here to let the commission know that I appreciate the parking ordinances that have been passed. It's beach season again, which lasts probably about 9 months. And if you live on First Street or any one of the side streets, before we had this ordinance and before we had no parking signs, we had people in our driveway, in our yard, running over our sprinkler heads. And as Pete just said, the fire truck, not even a car could get up and down the street without going very slowly to make sure that they didn't hit cars on either side. So I appreciate the fact that we have a parking ordinance, that we have no parking signs all up and down First Street. And I think on most of the side streets, Mine has it on the side street. And I've been in business here. I'm not in business any longer, but we were in business here in Indian Rocks Beach for 47 years. It was the law. I was in the motel business. Our customers had to park on our property. We had to provide parking for our guests. I don't ever remember my guests parking on the public streets because I provided enough parking for them. So I don't know what the answer to this is, but all I want to tell you is that I appreciate that no longer are people parking in my yard and on my sprinkler heads. So thanks much.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who'd like to come forward?
Madam Mayor, Commissioners, thank you. My name is Trent Wolfersberger. I'm a resident of Hillsborough County, and I'm a property owner at 2 15th Avenue, number 403. Last month, I rose to discuss the issues of Ordinance 2020-08. It's still an ongoing concern for me as previous resident or owners have testified. I think after my previous comments, one of the commissioners mentioned that our intent was not to deny boat ramp access to non-residents. And that's a huge concern for me. One of the reasons I bought a property in New Rock Beach was because the access to the boat ramp. You know, I was paying a fortune to keep my boat in dry storage over in Ruskin. And, you know, the opportunity to have boat ramp access and to keep my boat or watercraft in dry storage in Largo and commute a shorter distance and have easy access and more affordable access is much beneficial to us. But now we have lost that through the passage of Ordinance 2020-08. So I would ask strongly that you do as suggested or considered by one of the commissioners in the previous meeting, that we have a work group look at the boat access issue in particular and how we can afford that to non-resident property owners. Thank you.
Thank you, Trent.
Thank you for letting me speak. And I too want to say thank you for.
Sorry, ma'am, could you state your name and
Oh, I'm sorry. Paula Hamill, 2112 Gulf Boulevard. I too am very appreciative of all the work done for the parking. I love that the streets have no parking signs everywhere. It has eased up the congestion at the beach. We were here through the COVID mess, and when the people were everywhere, it was a nightmare. And I think it's helped a lot. I'm here this evening to ask you to repeal the section in the ordinance 2020-08 regarding temporary guest parking tags. I do not believe enough thought and consideration has been given to this specific subject. It appears to me as if it was an afterthought to a minor problem at best, just added onto an ordinance about beach parking. But this is not about beach parking. It's about overnight parking for our families. I've gone back 2 years and I've reviewed all agenda meetings, resident comments, and while there are many comments, can I take this off? I can't breathe. Thank you. While there are many comments about too many cars and parking problems, they were always about beach parking during the day. Never until this ordinance did I see a written word about a problem with overnight parking on the beach access avenues. I have owned my place here in IRB for 20 years. I've never viewed a problem with overnight parking. Most nights the streets are empty. I've been told these beach street accesses were never intended to be overnight parking for homeowners. I've done a deep dive. If anybody can advise me, I cannot. I've called Pinellas. I've tried to come up with any language supporting that intent. When I think about intent, I believe if you have a street and you want to pave over it, put lines and signs so people from all the world, over the world can come to visit your beautiful beach, the intent wasn't to deny the homeowners the ability to park in front of their home. I respectfully submit intent was likely to offer beach parking and gain revenue. To say to me, too bad if your family can't park in front of your house, doesn't sound very thoughtful or IRB friendly. The only solution I have at this point is the very inconvenient process of driving down a few streets, because you did such a great job controlling the beach parking that there's a lot of no parking signs. So wherever we end up, Harbor Drive, wherever, we'll park our car for 3 days. 72 hours, I understand, is the limit. And if I were that homeowner, I wouldn't want this homeowner's car in front of my house for 72 hours, but that's what's going to happen. No other IRB homeowner has to pay to park outside their street. No beachgoer from anywhere in the world has to pay to park on our streets. But those of us who live west of Gulf Boulevard have the distinction of being the ones that have to pay to park for our families at night. The intended use for 20 years has been an ordinance on the books. The intended use has been that we could apply for this hang tag and have it available for our guests. So intended 20 years, it's been on the books and done. That I'm certain of. One of my neighbors said it very well. I believe you have their letter. Please deal with this surgically rather than taking a sledgehammer to the issue. There is no one-size-fits-all solution. I get it, but this hang tag issue was barely addressed. The only information I gleaned from all the reports I read was a statement by City Manager Mims. He deleted the entire ordinance, 62-35C2, and said the paragraph should be amended to read clearer because in some cases the vehicles do not move for a while. The ordinance wasn't rewritten. It was never amended. The wording was added on to another ordinance, 62-35, section C, number 3. Please don't wait until you have to start receiving complaints from homeowners on any other street east of Gulf Boulevard that there are cars parked in front of their house for 3 days. Treat us like responsible property owners. If I observe a car that's not moved for several days, I'm a hawk outside on my 22nd Ave. I would call the sheriff, hang tag or no. I am a responsible property owner. Please reassess that position. Thank you.
Thank you, Paula. Is there anyone else who'd like to come up at this time?
Suzanne McHale, 2112 Gulf Boulevard, Unit 301. Good evening, commissioners, and I'd like to say I'm sorry for your loss. I too would just like to express the sentiments that you heard here tonight about the parking ordinance and to be able to have guest parking. We have a 6-unit condo on 22nd Street, the west side. We only have one guest spot. I'm transitioning here too. I just retired in the last year. I'm not fully here yet. But if my children or grandchildren want to come visit me on a weekend and surprise me, we can't park. Again, why do we want to clutter the east side of Indian Rocks Beach? I'm just begging that you reconsider this hang tag for guest parking because it is needed, and it is needed for elderly residents who need to have their people checking up on them and may have to stay overnight. And also, I am paying my taxes. I'm here 17 years. I do not get a homestead rebate, and I would like to, again, for you to think about reinstating the temporary guest parking passes. Thank you.
Susan, where do you live again? You said
2112 Gulf Boulevard.
Okay, thank you.
Sea Haven.
Sea Haven, okay.
Don House, 2104 Beach Trail. So, yeah, this is kind of an east-west issue again. Those of us on the west side, I mean, you know, I don't know where this came from. My daughter actually, I have a single-family residence on Beach Trail. I don't have 1/52nd of a 400-unit place or something like that. We have very few people. My daughter happens to be down this week, and there's an extra car there. And we just treat it like a New York City parking lot, and we live with it. But, you know, and I know some people in this room don't like to hear that we pay taxes, but $14,000 a year for a single-family residence, you know, maybe we should have the use of 200 square feet of asphalt at night. And I asked what was the logic as to why we couldn't park in these parking spaces that no one ever parks in at night. You know, it's like crazy. You know, you have, anyway, so we got no answer at all as to why we couldn't park in these spaces. That bothers me, okay? So, oh, there's those crickets kicking in again, I'm telling you. But that's not the only thing that happened. About a year ago, I came to the city, I filed a complaint about the city commission illegally paying somebody, at least I thought illegally paying somebody, that wasn't qualified to be on the city commission. And I did get a response from the city attorney, the city commission attorney, and I responded with a well thought out 12-page letter, I thought, that cited his shortcomings and his thinking and all that other stuff. And of course, the answer I got from him was pretty much what you would expect, you know, like, you never hear anything back, all right? So, but here's the last thing, all right? Right now, the only thing that's going on that's very important, those other two things, we can have fun and games with those, but the thing right now is the sand. And right now, I've come up here several times saying, please educate me. Tell me what's wrong in that pamphlet that was sent out. I see stuff from the county says that pamphlet has caused a lot of trouble. Yep, truth can do that. But if where is there a problem in there? What are we doing here that can solve these problems? I learned that the Big C had a meeting that was and supposedly addressed this issue. You know, I don't follow the Big C, my fault, but I would have thought that the city would have said something, hey, Don, go down there, maybe you'll learn something, because I'm ignorant, obviously, so maybe I can go down there and learn something. But I didn't hear anything there, okay? So here's the deal. I just want to say this about the sand. I live on the sand. You want easements to get the sand. When you start coming to us about signing easements to get on the sand, that's what you're going to hear. Nothing.
Thank you, Don.
Good evening. My name is Alan Peterson. I'm a property owner at 528 20th Avenue, Indian Rocks. And again, I'm dealing with something that's really unique tonight. It's parking. And the issue that I have is that we are half-year residents, and we went for a parking permit this year. And we believe that we qualified for that permit because when we took a look at the ordinances in place, it indicated that you needed to receive, at least have 2 of the 4 requirements. One of them being a Florida driver's license, a valid automobile registration, current real property tax roll owner, and a copy of a utility bill. And we had 3 of the 4 of those. And so when we went to get our permit, all of a sudden we were informed that no, unless you have a Florida driver's license, you cannot get that permit. Well, the ordinance does not say that. And so the concern I have is that as a property owner and resident paying significant taxes, when we have 3 of the 4 requirements and we're not allowed a permit to park, that creates a major problem for us. And you're in violation of your own policy. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Alan. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak at this time? One over.
Sorry.
No, that's fine.
Patrick Walsh, 310 10th Avenue. Mine is more just to heighten awareness of something Pete brought up too, for 12th Avenue. We on 10th, there's times when it's the beach day. I hate to say that the Pete with parking on 10th Avenue. It looks like it could be dangerous if an emergency vehicle had to get up that road. I don't know that they could do it. He says it's been trouble with the bus.
You're saying 10th?
10th Avenue definitely has, cars on both sides, and it's just tight. So cars have to slow down real slow just to get through it sometimes. That's it. That's what I have.
Thank you, Patrick.
I'm sorry, what was his address?
10th.
No, address.
Patrick, you're 10th. What's your address?
310 10th Avenue.
Okay, thanks.
Is there anyone else at this time who'd like to come up during public comment? Hearing none, I'm going to go to Zoom.
Madam Mayor, I have 4 public speakers and a written comment. I'll start with a written comment from Maria Hishmati. I'll speak it aloud verbatim. I understand the parking permits may not be convenient for some of us. However, overall, I do support this decision. Again, that was Maria Hishmati. I'd like to recognize Brad at this time. Brad, please unmute your microphone.
Hi, Brad.
Hi, everyone. How are you tonight?
Good.
I just wanted to start out with, guys, I've lived here for 17 years at 2600 Bay Boulevard. And I really consider myself a resident here because we come here a lot. We live in Orlando, but we spend most of our times here. I've been coming here for 17 years doing the same thing every year in January, getting a new permit. And I called this year in January to say, hey, I don't have my permit yet. And they said, don't worry about it. Come back in February. We'll have them then. So I said, okay. So we came back in February, and that's when I got the same thing everybody else got sprung on them, that you have to have a driver's license and a registration, which I don't have. We homestead in Orlando, and that's a choice I made, and that's my choice. But I just don't feel that after 17 years, I'm getting this taken away, because every time I ask about this, I really don't get the reason why. All I keep getting told about are Airbnbs. The Airbnbs are selling them on the black market. The Airbnbs are giving them to all the people that stay there. I'm not an Airbnb. I live here. I go on my boat, and that's another thing we're going to talk about in a second. And all of a sudden, I'm denied. So I said, okay, let me try it. So now what I do is I have to run down to all the beaches, like 26th, 25th, 24th, and try to fight with the tourists to get a parking spot, which doesn't happen. So really, I can't park anymore because the tourists have taken it. Maybe in September during hurricane season, I'll get to park again, but that's a long way away. The next thing that's bothering me is I went down to get a boat parking permit, which I had a sticker on my windshield, but I just recently had my windshield replaced on my boat. So they said, yeah, just come on down and get another one. So I went down there and they said, you don't need one anymore. We go by the host vehicle, meaning whatever the registration is of the car that you're towing is the car that's going to be allowed as long as it's from Indian Rocks. Otherwise, you're considered, somebody from Largo trying to use our beach or our boat ramp. Now, I've used that ramp for 17 years, guys, and I'm telling you, there's not that many people that use it because of the parking issue. Because you launch your boat, you got to be able to park it. So all of a sudden now, I have to go to Bel Air and pay $6 or park and pay $6 when the town I pay taxes in won't let me use my own ramp. So I find that very disturbing that all of a sudden now I've been taken away 2 things. That was one of the charms and reasons I moved here was to have a beach access, to have a boat access without being charged for any of this stuff. And if it's a problem about Airbnb people, well, in some of the states, they have registration stickers that they put on the windshield that if you try to take them off, they fall apart. You can't take them off. So go to every car, put them on there, stick them on there, and that's it. If they're taken off, you're going to be able to tell, give that person a ticket. But I don't think I should get a $75 ticket for taking my boat that I've had for 17 years down to my boat ramp and pay a $75 fine or run around every day trying to find a parking spot because of Airbnbs or for whatever reason you guys did it. I honestly still haven't gotten 100% reason why you took these away from us. And then if you guys are talking about parking problems in the street, start out at 26th Avenue, try to ride your bike or try to walk down 26th on Bay Boulevard all the way down that street. You can't. Cars can't get by, the garbage trucks can't by, the construction guys are there, the lawn guys are there. You ride your bike, you're gonna get killed. You got dog walkers. Bay Boulevard is just an absolute nightmare for parking. So I don't know what happened to the signs if you ran out, but I think you guys need to buy a few and put them along Bay because there's a major problem on Bay Boulevard. So basically that's my, problem, and I hope it gets addressed. I've heard a lot of people say it, but it's one of those things that I think should be given to the people that own a house here, that pay taxes. I'm a full-time taxpayer, which everybody keeps saying, but I feel that everybody that lives here should be able to have one. If you want to stop the people from swapping them on other cars and stuff, figure out a way, but that's not my problem. Your problem is not mine. I would have never let the Airbnbs in here. So that's another situation, but thanks for your time, guys, and I appreciate it.
Thank you, Brad.
Rhoda Coben, please unmute your microphone.
Hi, Rona.
Okay, can you hear me? You can't see me though, because it says that you've stopped my video. Is that correct?
Yes.
Can you hear me? Okay.
You can restart your video.
No, it says the host has disabled it. The host has to enable it.
We can hear you though. Go ahead.
Okay, that's fine. You don't need to see me anyway. Okay, now I can start. Okay, here we go. Okay, my name is Rhoda Coben. I'm speaking for myself and my husband, David. We live at 2000 Beach Trail. We own units 2 and 3, which we actually use as one single condo. We occupy it nearly full time. We vary, as some people do. We do not rent our property. We do not in any way share with other people who might be renters or Airbnbs or whatever. Our condo has very limited parking. We do have garages, but the way they're situated, we can't really get our cars into them. And so we have 3 owners of the 4 units in our condo, and we do have to jiggle around to try to see if somebody has more than one car here, and there are people who do. We only have 1 car. We have lived here almost full time, in increasing increments since we've retired, since 2012. We pay taxes just as everyone else said. It's our personal decision where to keep our legal residence. We have our legal residence and our car is registered in New Jersey. That's a personal issue. That's not relevant to the fact that we are nearly full-time residents here, taxpayers and law-abiding citizens who contribute to the economy of the area. We patronize businesses and restaurants here. And when we don't have a sticker, which we do not, we were denied a sticker this year for the very first time because of what other people have discussed. We want 1 sticker for 1 car. And that's all we need is 1 sticker for 1 car. And if somebody wants to check to see if somebody is using that inappropriately or trading off, as somebody was talking about, then they should enforce that. But for property owners who live here, it's independent of where you're a legal resident. We are nearly full-time residents here. We own our property. We do not rent it. We do not share any parking spaces. So that's all I'm asking, is to be treated like any other citizen of Indian Rocks Beach and be granted 1 sticker for my 1 car, so that if our carport is overcrowded, then I can park in the adjacent lot where it says resident parking. I'm not really going to get into the whole issue of how to use those resident stickers, but I do think, and I'll echo what somebody else said, we've been here for, 8 years, since 2012, 9 years now, and we've never seen a problem in our parking lot on 20th Avenue. There are some spaces that are designated for residents, and residents use those, and there are other spaces that are for visitors, and visitors use those. And even during the day, we really haven't seen problems. But for overnight, to deny people the right who have a sticker to park in the resident parking spots in a little, 12-spot lot, just seems to me to be counterproductive. Why are we residents, and why are we not allowed the privilege of residence? So that's all I'm asking for myself, is that I'm allowed to have 1 sticker for my car. And I would support those people who say residents should be allowed to park in resident designated spots. And if somebody is not a resident, if they can't prove that their car has a resident sticker, then they shouldn't be parking there. And you just need to reinforce the ordinance that's already in place.
Thank you, Rona. Thank you very much.
Yes, Evan and Ricky Freeman, please go ahead and start your video and unmute your microphone.
Can you see me?
Yes.
Great. My name is Evan Freeman, reside at 2000 Beach Trail, Unit 4. The Cobens are actually our neighbors. So basically just trying to speak in opposition to the ordinance as it relates to the restrictions on residents parking overnight. We've got a very limited parking facility at our building. And while we're incredibly cooperative with our neighbors and juggle cars all the time, it is incredibly practical to have the residence spots, out on the beach access to be used when we have, when we have more than the 2 or 3 cars here. Otherwise, people are blocked in. We have adult children who are in graduate school and college, and they come home to visit, and we have no place to park, their cars. So we move their cars underneath our carport and put, our cars in the residence spots overnight. The issue I have is who's being prejudiced by this? What's the downside to allowing residents to park out in front of their units? There's never more than 2 or 3 cars overnight in this at the 20th access parking area. If we're forced to now move our cars out onto the east side of Gulf Boulevard, we're going to be adding more problems and more congestion to areas that are already, dark, difficult to pass, particularly in the early morning hours. We're out there running, walking the dog. We see, the cars out on the road. And now you're going to be asking all of the beachside residents to move their cars over there. I think you're creating more of a problem than you solved with this ordinance. So we are strongly in opposition to the ordinance and think it should be reconsidered. I really don't understand what the thought process was in granting or in really taking punitive action against beach residents for no legitimate purpose. Thank you.
Thank you, Evan.
Madam Mayor, that concludes the public speaker from Zoom.
Thank you, Matt. At this time, we'll close the public hearing and we will go to reports of the city attorney. Randy, do you have a report tonight?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Briefly, as you all well know, we are in the midst of the legislative session in Tallahassee. The 2 bills focusing on short-term rentals raised at the last meeting were Senate Bill 522 and its corollary House Bill 219. Senate Bill 522 made it through its first committee of 3. It's scheduled for its second committee on Thursday of this week, so it is still moving through the legislative process. The House Bill 2019 has gone through 1, but is not presently scheduled to go onto the second. As you know, there has to be a corollary, or as you may know, there has to be a sister or companion bill between the House and Senate. That doesn't prevent, sometimes when there's not a suitable companion, that doesn't prevent them from doing a strike all amendment in the opposite chamber and just putting something on that once the chambers are in full session. But those are receiving significant debate. Again, this would preempt regulation in as much as it would make it such that any regulation imposed on a short-term rental would have to be equally applicable to any residential property, irrespective of whether or not it's operating a short-term rental. And so that's among some of the others which we described in some depth. Outside of that, we continue to monitor session as there are substantive updates that affect the community. I will tell you that your city manager has been very, very active in monitoring this particular legislative session, especially as it relates to the ability for proposed preemption of regulating home industries or home offices and the like, among other issues. And so we continue to monitor that. I'm as you well know, in contact with Manager Mims on a daily basis. It's at this point part of my morning commute to have that call. So otherwise, I have nothing else to report, but I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Does anyone have any questions for the, I see Ed's hand. Ed has a question.
Sure. Thank you, Mayor. Randy, several people have come forward tonight and indicated that there was some incorrect language in the ordinance, and I'm just asking, do you share that view?
I don't know if the incorrect or correct aside, I would say that the language in the ordinance presently says that in order to secure a permit, at least 2 of the following 4 things are required. I can certainly understand a plain reading leading the conclusion of it is just 2, no more. There is certainly an argument to be had in terms of the administration's attempt to harmonize the language with the stated intent and articulated intent by yourself and others that the at least two does not necessarily preclude more. Again, reasonable minds may disagree. I would suggest that if it is this commission's intention to continue to operate in the fashion that the administration has been implementing this ordinance, that you do amend that language to make that explicitly clear and avoid the need for some kind of artful debate on the matter and quell the issue that way. Apart from any other amendments you may consider in response to the comments raised tonight.
Thank you.
Anything else, Ed?
No.
Okay. Do any of the commissioners, Vice Mayor, have any questions for Randy? Okay.
I just briefly,
Joe?
is there any opinions on, because I know you mentioned these two ordinances, or these two laws that have been trying to be passed last year. Do they have any more legs this year, or is there any opinion on how they're moving?
So the commissioner's question is whether the statutes relating to the proposed statutes, presently bills relating to the regulation of short-term rentals, what are their likelihood of success? That's always difficult to say in session. You know, I can't remember if it was last year's session or the year before. Everything was, I think it was 2 years ago, everything was tracking for a pretty quick and rapid adoption, and then Marjorie Stoneman Douglas happened and everything in the legislative session came to a halt. Last year, this was on track to pass, and then the governor made some public statements about home rule and had that he didn't really think it was the right place, and leadership suddenly sort of moved away from that as a priority. So even as they continue to move, I mean, they're moving a little slower than anticipated, especially the fact that the House bill is not presently scheduled for a second committee, but there's no shortage of procedural mechanisms to accelerate that as we continue through the last bit of session here. So hard to predict, but we are monitoring it. I can tell you that I've observed that in the past, the opposition to these kinds of bills has largely come from the Florida League of Cities and Counties and its affiliates. I'm seeing a lot more op-eds, and in fact, Ed Hooper from this area said it rubs me the wrong way us to be telling local communities. So seeing lawmakers come out and really vocally state that sort of thing is a little bit newer. I think the dialogue's a little more split than it used to be. I think, you know, and there's any number of social reasons for that, or socio-political reasons for that, but hard to predict, but they are not in a current posture where I would tell you they're DOA. I don't think that's the case at all.
Joe, that being said, I did talk at great length with Representative Seglia about it, and he also is not comfortable, which is very good because he in the past has been comfortable, so I was, you know, very thrilled to hear that. And I put in a call to Senator Rouson from St. Pete, and he did call me back the other night. I haven't called him back yet. I will call him back this week, so I'm trying to make the rounds, calling. I did put a call into Representative Diamond, and I haven't heard from him yet, but I will call him again. So I have my list, and I put notes when I talk to each one. So maybe at the next meeting I'll know more. But Randy, will you, if anything starts to move, will you email me or something so that I can
absolutely
get crazy?
And I will, I will apart from emailing the mayor, I will certainly send some correspondence to the commission as a whole after Thursday, and we have a sense of if it was reported out of committee favorably or not, in terms of the Senate bill.
Okay. Denise, anything? Any questions for Randy? No. You okay? Okay. Greg Mims, City Manager, your report, please.
I'm going to take this off so I can breathe.
Okay.
I have quite a long list, so just bear with me for a few minutes.
Okay.
I first want to acknowledge the loss of your mother, Cookie.
Thank you very much.
Had the pleasure of meeting your late father and your mother, and it's a testimony to how you were raised and the type of person you are. So my condolences from the staff.
Thank you
for your loss. I want to congratulate Denise for joining the commission. Look forward to getting to know you more. A couple other things I think are appropriate is that I think Ed touched on it earlier. We had a really horrific traffic accident on the bridge a couple nights ago, and it was just a reminder of the dedication and service of the fire district and the sheriff's office, coroner, just that whole group, and what they had to deal with there. And I just want to publicly acknowledged. And as part of that, I didn't want to, I think we touched on it briefly at the last meeting, but want to acknowledge Deputy Magley, who was murdered by a guy who intentionally ran his car into the deputy, and he left behind wife and 2 children. So I want to publicly acknowledge his service. And also, last thing on public safety is, we consider ourselves part of the Tampa Bay area. And this morning, Master Patrol Officer Jesse Madison was called to 275 to deal with a wrong way driver. And when he got up on the interstate, there were like a whole line of cars coming. This hero intentionally drove his patrol car into this wrong way driver to stop people from getting killed. And he leaves behind a wife and 3 children. So as we talk about all the important things that we talk about, I just want to acknowledge law enforcement, public safety. One other public safety related thing, about 3 weeks ago, went to my mailbox, got my mail, and I had a jury summons. Those are things that are just wreak fear in you. So I went today for the first time. I've never been to the Pinellas County Justice Center. And there's a lot of construction going on. And of course, that's a weird place right now, too, because of COVID and how they're having to do things. But just want to also publicly acknowledge Ken Burt from the clerk's office and the sheriff, because from the security to the professionalism of the court clerk staff, I was there from 8:30 to I ran out of there at 5:30 this afternoon. It was just really impressive. And a lot of times people, rightfully so on occasion, are very critical of government operations employees. And I just want to say from the personal side and professional, because I've worked in management for a long time, how impressed I was with how they ran that facility. A couple of project updates, and then I'll address briefly some things that we talked about earlier. Is that capital projects? You probably noticed we've started the installation of the new LED lights at the baseball field. There's 4 new LED poles going up. All the old poles are coming down. Underground utilities, new breaker box, all that stuff that goes with it. And that's just the city's ongoing commitment to energy efficiency. And those lights that were over there are like 40 years old, and we've had numerous problems. That's all part of the commission working with the staff to make that happen. We just finished the complete reconstruction of La Hacienda. The way we're rebuilding streets now, we ripped everything out, put it all back down. New base, new curb, that was completed. And thanks again to the commission for allocating the money. Let me just briefly address parking. The parking discussion goes well back, even before I came here. I've been here in July now for 8 years. But this ordinance, or the talk of changing the ordinance, goes back for over a year. In fact, I was reading minutes that we sent to a gentleman who requested minutes and documents and things. And, we had 3 or 4 different work sessions about, I remember at one point we had the ordinance about you had to have the decal to park during the daytime hours. That didn't pass. But just ongoing discussions about parking. And one thing that's very clear to me about the issuance of decals and about hang tags is that we're implementing what the majority of the commission voted for and approved. In fact, at the December meeting, and all these minutes are online, at the December meeting when the ordinance, the one that's been referred to earlier, 08, was adopted, after the motion was made, the motion maker during the motion clarified and stated publicly what this, if it was adopted, what this ordinance meant. And it had, throughout the meeting, but at the end, talked about hang tags and who would get decals and who wouldn't. In fact, the ordinance was approved by a 4-1 vote, and the dissenting commissioner, and I'm making the point that this is what what the commission's intent was and why we're implementing the ordinance where we are, is that the dissenting commissioner said after it was clarified what this would do or what this changes, said that he had concerns about if you do this, then the people that are not full-time residents of the city would not get the decals. And so that was understood, and it was in the record. So the 4 items that are needed to implement what the commission passed, that's why the direction was given to staff, was that the 2 primary things you need to have was a vehicle registration and a driver's license to that address. And then we talked about the hang tag, and the one gentleman who got up and spoke, Mark, we've had some really good conversations about hang tags and how you get them. And was it in the old ordinance, somebody referenced this earlier, there was a paragraph in the ordinance that was basically unlimited. If there was no limits on hang tags, it was paragraph number 2, in fact. You can go back and look at the old ordinance. You could come in City Hall and you could get as many hang tags as you wanted. In fact, we had people that lived on Harbor Drive, 6th Avenue, that every 2-year cycle would come and get, 4 hang tags, 6 hang tags. So that was particularly hard, really not easy to understand. But so the decision was made that needed to be taken out to basically eliminate that loophole where people just could get unlimited numbers and they used them and passed them around, that kind of thing. But that being said, let me just say this, is that when the commission takes the length of time that the commission took to adopt an ordinance, and it's all documented throughout the minutes, like I said, look at December 8th, 2020, the intent of what the action was, that's what we're implementing. I think I was out of the office, like I said, at the courthouse all day today, but yesterday I think we were up to about 800 decals, and I think we'd issued 8 or 9 hang tags. But that being said, even after the 1.5 years or so of discussion and what y'all want to do or not do, I work for as far as, what part of my job is to implement the ordinances or what are laws that you pass. If the commission at any point in time, based on the thought out comments that you receive, we've seen emails, we've heard, we've got phone calls. Believe me, the 2, excuse me. I wore a mask all day in the courthouse, so I'm drying out. But that being said, I just want to make clear to the public and to the commission, we will issue decals to whoever you want us to issue them to. We will issue hang tags to whoever you want us to issue them to, however you want to issue us to. But if you want us to do something contrary to what you told us to do, and throughout the work sessions and when this was brought up, when it was officially on the agenda on December the 8th, then give me a directive to do it or amend the ordinance, and I'll be happy to do that. I can tell you, every 2 years, every 2-year cycle, even before this ordinance was amended, this is not a lot of fun in City Hall. Even when we had the old ordinance, we have 2 different couples from Bel Air Beach that have been in City Hall twice, and basically have, not directly, I was going to say cussed out, that might be exaggerating, but it was very uncomfortable and demanding to get a decal. And it's like, that's an easy one because you don't own property here, you don't live here, but they've been in twice, and then they were in again this week because they've been on the beach access and somebody was parked illegally, and of course we went and dealt with that. I've had 2 different people that one that owned and one that rents property on Indian Rocks Road in Largo that were just completely rude. We live on Indian Rocks Road, that's close enough, it's a decal. So the point being is, whether it's the old ordinance or the new ordinance, it's really amazing. In fact, I'll tell you, we've begun the process of putting the new colored decals on the signs, because every 2 years we have to update the decals. Those decals do not have numbers on them. Like, if you get a decal from us, it'll say 000 whatever. We're having people now steal the new decals off the signs. And I guess their intent is they're going to stick them on the back of a car. Of course, we may be slow sometimes, but I can tell you if a deputy or a code enforcement person pulls up behind a car and there's a decal that's on the back that doesn't have any numbers on it, they're getting a ticket and we're pulling the decal off the back of the car. And while I'm on the enforcement end of it, we are, even in the process of implementing this ordinance, we're aggressively enforcement of just no parking and handicap parking. My part-time code enforcement person, last week, he wrote 22 parking citations in about a 4-hour period, you know, on the beach, and then on the people have referenced the east side of the beach. But bottom line is, and I just want to make this clear to everybody, we're implementing what you passed. A lot of well thought out comments. I get it. I understand it. I hear what they're saying. And that's all part of ordinances and adopting them and looking at impacts of things that we do or things that you adopt. But at any point in time, y'all want to amend it or give me direction, you know, like where people want to argue about the wording and the intent. I know what the intent is because it was referenced for a year. But even that being said, if you direct me tonight by the majority vote to issue decals to all property owners and IRB residents and the bigger group, I'll do it tomorrow. The hang tag thing, if you want to change that's not quite as easy. That would probably require some rewording. But I did want to kind of clarify whatever the confusion is about intent, the way the ordinance is worded.
Greg, a couple questions about that. Several times we heard tonight that there wasn't a problem on Gulf Boulevard. Can you address that at all? I mean, because I'm confused on that myself now.
Well, I can't address specifically what people have gotten up tonight and brought up specific accesses. But I can tell you it's been a growing problem where on multiple beach accesses, people were leaving, including some people had decals, were leaving vehicles at the beach accesses for a week or two at a time. And I appreciate one comment a lady made earlier that she was the hawk that would help us watch out for those, and we appreciate that because we had one gentleman we had to deal with, but it was that and the whole golf cart issue. Now we've got people that have golf carts at their houses and particularly at vacation rentals. Because one thing you have to remember if you amend the ordinance, just keep in mind that, and I'm not the attorney, he can speak for himself, but I think if you amend the ordinance and you say, okay, property owners and residents can get decals, you're not going to be able to exclude vacation rentals. And part of the things we're dealing with now is that I don't know what percentage, but a large percentage of vacation rentals have golf carts. And now we've had problems with them leaving those at the beach. So I can't go down and defend, because I live on Bay Boulevard, defend every access because these folks live there, but I can tell you it's a growing problem. And the city, before I got here, received multiple grants to build beach access parking for the beach. That's why on some of the beach accesses, there's still some of the signs remaining. You got the grant money. And there's strings side to that. And that was money from the state of Florida. And that was provide beach parking for people going to the beach. So it's all a balancing act. But to answer your question specifically, it's a growing problem that we have. And up until we even discussed it in the ordinance, people that had decals would just respond to us and say, well, I've got a decal, you know, like so in a resident parking space, it doesn't say I can't leave there after a certain hour. I don't have to move it. So that was the answer.
What about the boat ramp? Is there something that we could amend that? And what can we do about the boat ramp situation?
In a previous amendment that was not in this ordinance, I don't know how, you know, time goes by fast now. But I think maybe 2 or 3 years ago, we updated some ordinances, and that's when the change was made. Was that the city used to give out resident decals, and then we had this whole different set of bureaucracy where you had to get a different decal for to launch your boat. That's why the decision was made by the commission that instead of doing both of those things that require people to come to the city hall twice, that we would just amend the ordinance was amended, that as long as you had a decal on the vehicle that you were launching, that at that time residents and property owners could have that decal, that you could launch a vessel at the one boat ramp that we have. But to completely answer your question, I think it really comes down to, now that you've gotten some feedback, some input on the ordinance that you adopted and the intent of it, is that for me, working with staff and administering ordinances, and particularly this one, I would not want to create a whole separate decal again, just for boats. And then you have to have the argument, well, if you give them a different decal to launch a boat, why don't you just give them a decal, a resident decal? So to me, if I were in y'all's shoes, if you're going to consider amending the thing at all, you really need to go back and have a conversation and to amend it to include property owners. You're going to do that. But I think it's just unnecessary, and it just creates too much work on the public and staff to have this kind of decal, that kind of decal. And I think maybe it warrants a look by the commission if you lean that way to say, if you're going to consider decals again, have another discussion about who gets them, and just have one decal, not multiple different things. And I don't think that's good for the public to make them go to City Hall for this and that.
Okay. All right, let's resonate on that piece, and then go on with the rest of your.
That's all.
You're finished with your. Okay. I'd like to introduce everybody to our new commissioner. This is her first night. Denise, why don't you give us a little bit of your background so everybody can get to know you a little bit?
Okay. My name's Denise Hausberg, and I moved here from Dallas 4 years ago. I live off the 9th Avenue in Harbor House, and I'm also on the board there. Since I moved here, I've become a part of the food pantry. I'm a part of Action 2000. I'm gearing up again for the Garden for Free IRB. I got my plants in my dirt, so we're going to get that rolling again. And I just really love living here. My background really is in marketing, online marketing. So I've been an entrepreneur for 30 years, and I love what I do. And I work from home, so it works out great.
And you were in the military?
Yep, I'm a veteran. I grew up in a very small town in northwestern Ohio, and I was the youngest of 9 children. I watched my brothers and sisters grow up, get married, and I was like, I'm leaving. So I had a great time there, and after that I moved to Dallas and I opened my own business. So that's how it all got started.
Very nice. Commissioner McCall, your turn.
First of all, welcome, Denise.
Thank you.
Didn't know you were an Ohioan also. That's good news. Indiana, Ohio. Really, as Greg said, we've obviously heard a lot tonight. I'll state it before, or as I stated in the previous meetings. I believe we're all here in the Indian Rocks Beach community. I've been president of the HOA, seen a lot of folks volunteer in our community, whether they live here or not. So that was a concern I raised initially. I apologize if some people felt offended, but obviously the commission has to do, certain things. Really, to that point, I do hear everything you're saying. If there is any consideration, I'd be open to it.
Thank you, Joe. Vice Mayor?
First of all, again, very sad to hear about your mother's passing. I knew her well, and she was one of my very, very favorite people on video. She did outstanding. Denise, welcome.
Thank you.
I think you're going to be a great asset to not only our commission, but also our city. Relative to what we heard tonight, you did not fall on deaf ears. I don't want anybody to think that you did. I took 16, 17 entries of notes here. A lot of things went into this decision. it's never, ever a perfect solution, but some things that I think need to be considered that you all may not know about. Indian Rocks Beach is one of the very few cities along the beach area that has free parking. We've kind of prided ourselves in that. Everybody seems to charge. And if you charge one, you have to charge all. So if we got rid of the parking stickers and decided to go to every access has to be charged for, I don't think that would be a fun thing to do. It's not about the money, the $5 a night. We don't need the $5 a night. That's not the issue. And I understand there's a lot of people that are unfortunately taking advantage of the stickers, and that's where we really ran into a problem. I had one letter that came to me, and the gentleman will remain nameless. It's public record, but I'm not going to bring it up. And was not very happy about things and mentioned that he pays taxes like everybody else and so forth. And he was really upset that he couldn't get his parking pass and be able to park overnight. So I did a little research. I found out he's a gentleman who lives in Largo, in a very nice neighborhood, and that he has a condo. And when I went to the condo and looked it up in Airbnb, it sleeps 12. He needs some parking spots for his customers. That's unfortunate for those of you who say, look, I never rent my place out. What am I going to do? Now I feel like I'm being punished. Just wanted you to be a little bit aware of some of the things that happen here. We've had people that go in and park golf carts and cars and they leave them there for days. And why take up parking spots? That's not fair. And for what it's worth, there are more open parking positions than there are resident parking positions. So again, as I said earlier, you've not fallen on deaf ears, but just wanted you to be a little aware of some of the things that we had to entertain. I'm a person who looks for solutions and not putting up blockades. So anything and any ideas that your citizens have, this venue has always been very prideful of having a great management team, a good solid commission, but most of all, people out here that all work together, and between the three groups, we always seem to find a solution. So you're not on deaf ears by any means. I'm encouraging you to give me some solutions now that you know a little bit more about it. And that's all I have tonight.
Thank you, Bill.
Welcome.
Ed, did you have anything else you wanted to say?
Yeah, I wanted to express my condolences, Cookie, for your loss of your mom. And Denise, I wanted to welcome you. Look forward to meeting you in person. And
Yet? No, you're too young.
Next week.
It's too young for your vaccine.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Cookie. Anyway, I just wanted to reiterate some things that were said tonight. I would like to remedy the boat ramp issue, whether it's another sticker or some solution. I do believe that the boat ramp was not intended, and I'm hopeful that somehow we can address that. I believe that most of the issues with frustration over parking on the east side of Gulf Boulevard really stem from inadequate parking in the buildings. And we should bear that in mind when building permits are coming up and people are looking for exceptions and variances are being granted, because the answer to having inadequate parking in your facility should not be that you park overnight on the beach access. I know that may not be what people want to hear, but that's really what I'm hearing, is that we don't have enough parking in our buildings, so we'd like to park overnight in the access. I don't think that that's the right solution. There should be adequate parking in the first place. And with respect to the Airbnb owners or the vacation rental owners who are abusing the parking passes, I regret that some of the part-time residents are negatively impacted, but I'm very happy that we're able to stop the larger abuse, which was the part-time or the over Airbnb rentals clogging up the beach access parking. And I hope that we can find a solution for the part-timers. I don't know what it is yet, but I do not want to permit the short-term rental Airbnb VRBO owners to have a resident pass. That's not what we ever envisioned, and I don't believe it should happen. So thank you.
Thank you, Ed. As far as the parking, we heard everything tonight, and I agree with all of the commission on some things. I agree with Ed about the boat ramp. I think that the intention was not to mix those up, and we need to figure that out. We'll figure that one out. What I disagree with is many of the people who bought in the condos were here before we had this huge parking problem. So that doesn't mean it's our fault, but I think that has to be under consideration too. So this is a very good commission, and we are very, we do hear what you have to say. So I hope that you'll work with us and we'll figure this out. I don't know if it's going to work out for everyone, but we'll go back to the table and try to figure out what we can do about the parking issue on the golf side. Okay. And I just quickly want to say about my mom. My mom was 97 years old, and my family came here in 1958 to Largo. My father got a job as a teacher at Largo Middle School, and my parents lived in Largo. And after I went away to school, I came back and moved to Indian Rocks Beach, and I've been here ever since. So I guess I'm one of the old school people, along with Carol McLaughlin here. I've been here almost 40 years. And, you know, someone asked me how I was doing that was in the audience today, and I said, you know, there's days that I can't breathe. And I guess what I mean by that is at 97, you think that you've had a long time with your parents, and that, you know, we all know that at some point this is going to come to an end. But she was a Spitfire, and my mother was full Sicilian and from Calabria. So you can imagine, everybody talked at once, everybody was as loud as could be, nobody listened to what anybody said, and she basically was still telling me what to do a month ago. And I feel very proud and grateful that I was able to be her daughter and to take care of her in her, you won't believe this, but a month ago she did not wear glasses. She didn't have a cane. She lived by herself. She took care of herself, has a small condo on Sand Key. And when she got a blockage in her stomach, and so then we brought her home from the hospital. But even my 25-year-old son, who I'm incredibly proud of, took her to the bathroom, did anything that he could for my mother, and she was very loved, and we will miss her. And she was a character. She was in Phil did a video when we first got COVID, because we were very concerned about our citizens that were over 65 here and their children not being able to come and take care of them because they weren't allowed to leave the states that they were in. And we got this brainy idea at the end to put Mama in the video, and she was a superstar. And if you saw her what month did we do that? Like in March or April of last year when COVID first started. And we went to her condo, and she was just one take, said exactly that, you know, she's been here she's seen everything from 1923 to the Mars, the last thing on Mars. And she would argue politics with anybody. She'd talk to you about it. I mean, she just had her brains pretty much till the very end. So I am grateful, and I'm very proud of the fact that I was her daughter. So I appreciate all of you about that. With that, we'll go to number 4. Are there any additions or deletions for tonight? No. Hearing none, we'll move on to the consent agenda. Mr. Mora, would you like to read the consent agenda?
Madam Mayor. There are 2 items on the consent agenda this evening. Item A, approval of the February 9, 2021 regular City Commission meeting minutes. Item B, approval of the August 11, 2020 City Commission work session minutes. These are the only items on the consent agenda this evening.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve consent agenda as read.
And is there a second?
I'll second.
Second from Joe McCall. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries. With that, we'll go on to public hearings. We do not have any public hearings tonight. Agenda item number 7, other legislative matters. We'll go on to 7A, which is a resolution number 2021-03. Randy, would you please read?
Happily, Madam Mayor. Item A, resolution number 2021-03, a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Indian Rocks Beach, Florida, appointing a member of the City Commission to serve as Vice Mayor Commissioner and providing for an effective date. This is the only reading of resolution number 2021-03 by title only.
Deanne, would you present this?
This is the appointment of a vice chair that would begin tonight and in following the certification of the March 15th, 2022 municipal general election.
Let's kind of rotate. Is there a rotation tonight? Who would you?
There really hasn't been, but I attached the sheet.
Okay. Is there anyone who'd like to make a motion on who you'd like to have as your vice mayor? I can't be both.
Thank you for that.
Just be funny here. Okay.
Next time, consult with me before you make such a definitive pronouncement.
I would like to nominate Joe McCall.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay.
First, make the nomination.
Excuse me?
Make the nomination first, then make the motion.
Okay. So you would like him to make the nomination?
Which you did.
Okay.
Now we make a motion.
Okay, then let's make a motion. So is it okay that he made the nomination, now he can make the motion?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and then,
All right, so I make a motion to appoint Joe McCall as the Vice Mayor Commissioner.
Thank you.
I second that motion.
okay, is this a roll call or is this?
All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Welcome, Vice Mayor McCall.
Thank you.
Don't start any with me, though. Okay, so you will be for our next year. Mr. McCall, you'll be our Vice Mayor. I look forward to it. Okay. 7B, agenda item, resolution number 2021-04. Randy, would you also read this?
Happily, Madam Mayor. Item B, resolution number 2021-04, a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Indian Rocks Beach, Florida, appointing a voting delegate and first and second alternate voting delegates to represent the City of Indian Rocks Beach at the Barrier Islands Governmental Council, the Big C meetings, and providing for an effective date. This has been a reading of resolution number 2021-04 by title only.
Deanne, would you present this?
This is every year we have to have a voting delegate, which is usually the mayor, and Mayor Kennedy has served on that for several years. And last year, Commissioner Flagg was first alternate and Commissioner McCall was second alternate. So I would assume that you would want the mayor to be the voting delegate.
Sure.
Yeah, somebody has to make a motion? Okay.
I'll make a motion for Mayor Kennedy to be the voting delegate for the Big C meetings.
Second.
We have a motion and a second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. And so now we need a first alternate and a second alternate? Correct.
Best to take them in succession, just so there's no.
Okay, we'll do one at a time.
Yep.
Is there anyone who would like to volunteer? I know that we just love this so much that, is there anyone who would like to be the first alternate on the Big C?
I'll be the first alternate.
Perfect.
I nominate Denise to be the first alternate on the Big C.
Perfect. And who's
I'll second that.
perfect? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. And then we need a second alternate.
I nominate Joe McCall. He's had such a good run tonight, he might as well stick with it.
I knew that was coming.
There you go. There it is.
Everybody's a comedian.
Tonight.
Okay, so you nominate? Okay, so who's going to make the motion?
I'll second that motion.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay, we will go on to agenda item number 8, work session items. We do not have any. number 9, agenda item number 9, other business. Is there any other business to come before this board tonight? Anyone? Okay. And with that, I need a motion to adjourn. You guys want to stay or what?
Motion to adjourn.
And second.
Second? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you.
No.
We'll see you next month.